Bud.
Have we got sound?
You don't know.
We should.
We should. It might, should be on. Huh? Look at that.
You moved it back.
You're going to have to put the reverse columns in the Catholic Church, everybody sit in the back. That worked. Might work too, though. I had the privilege, it's a little bit, yeah,
There we go.
Friday to do it. This is what I do.
That's why.
Anyway, Friday I had the privilege of doing a funeral for someone. I didn't know I could be the family and all. But still a little bit up. The funeral director, one of the very big people, the funeral director said, "Hey, you want to ride with me? I don't have anybody with me today, so I got to ride to her school." And I didn't have to die to do it.
Ain't you lucky?
Yeah. But I tell you this, you know, when you get to, you guys, when you get past 50, way past 50, you know, you start wondering how much longer you're going to go to this. 75 is not far. It's scary, 75. So yeah, a lot of people retire. So I'm driving with this guy, we drive into the cemetery and we're talking. He's a funeral director. I know him real well because I see him. I'm always doing funerals for the funeral director. He's 80 years old. He's 80 years old, he's still a funeral director. I said, well, shoot, if you keep doing this at 80, I'll keep doing what I'm doing. Huh? Yeah, that was a good lesson for him. 80 years old and he's still going. That's great. That's awesome. Learned all kind of other things about it too, but they're not relevant. Anyway, this is what I used to do. Well, experiencing mental technical difficulty, there's no trouble with your ears. It's just with our electronics. I want to do a metaphorical teaching today. That's all right. Huh? Well, I know what a metaphorical teaching is. You know what a metaphor is, right? Yeah. Hmm? What's the definition of a metaphor? Yeah. Use them as a comparison. In the book of Esther, if you got your Bible, you want to open it. If not, you're going to read it up here. At least I'll keep y'all at work. You know, the scary thing about this is being filmed. Anybody that watches this on YouTube will think this guy's insane. Coincidentally, you guys are being filmed too. I hope that's all right. I have to start getting release papers so people to sign a release because you're being filmed.
Everybody in here gets filmed.
Huh?
Everybody in here gets recorded.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Everybody in here is being recorded. Notice you're on camera as soon as you get close to the door. You pull up in the parking lot, you're already on camera, and it is recorded. So, anyway, I'm going to take some literary license with the words in this book because I know who he is. So in chapter 1, now it came to pass in the days of who is actually Xerxes the first. So I'm going to insert the name Xerxes every time this name comes up because that's who he is. Now, of course, y'all remember who Xerxes is, right? If you ever saw the Spartans, you know who Xerxes is. He's the Persian king who led the army that wiped out those poor 300 Spartans in Greece. You didn't know that, huh? Anyway. That's one who reigned over 127 provinces from India to Ethiopia. Pretty good sized kingdom. In those days when King Xerxes sat on the throne of his kingdom, which was in Shushan, the citadel, and that Then in the third year of his reign, he made a feast for all his officials and servants, the powers of Persia and Media, the nobles, the princes of provinces, being before them. Then he showed the riches of his glorious kingdom and the splendor of his excellent majesty for many days, 180 days in all. Now, metaphorically speaking, for our lesson today, King Xerxes represents King Jesus and his majesty and his generosity. This king, you notice the feast didn't have any requirements. You could come and you were free. It's 180 days. His majesty, his glory was being shown to all. Just hold that in your thoughts as we go through this. When these days were completed, the king made a feast lasting 7 days for all the people who were present in Shushan, the citadel, from great to small, in the court of the garden of the king's palace. Didn't matter who you were. You were welcome to come to the feast, eat all you want, drink all you want, enjoy. Now, verse 6, we don't have to worry about that. That's all the glory of the Lord. Verse 7, and they served drinks in golden vessels, and each vessel being different from the other, and royal wine in abundance according to the generosity of the king. We do serve a generous king. In accordance with the law, the drinking was not compulsory. You didn't have to drink. Unlike some of the Cajun weddings I've been through as a kid, where drinking almost was compulsory. For so the king had ordered all the elders of his household, and they should do according to each man's pleasure. Queen Vashti also made a feast for the women in the royal palace, which belonged to King Xerxes. On the seventh day, when the heart of the king was merry with wine, he commanded 7 eunuchs who served in the presence of King Xerxes to bring Queen Vashti before the king, wearing her royal crown, in order to show her beauty to the people and the officials, for she was beautiful to behold. As a matter of fact, the name Vashti means beauty. Now, I need you to understand something here. Vashti held the position of queen. I didn't catch it.
I was thinking about vegetables. I'm
Oh, vegetables? Oh, Vashti was in vegetables? She a cucumber or a
sorry.
carrot?
The king made his own sandwich.
Vashti held a position at the desire of the king. It was the king that chose her. It was the king that elevated her to be the queen of the greatest empire the world had known at that time. It was at the king's desire and at the king's wishes that anything she had, did, or was because of his touch on her life. Starting to see the significance? In the eyes of Christ, everyone that he calls is beautiful to behold in his eyes. Everyone that he calls and offers the glory of his kingdom is beautiful to him. And Queen Vashti is the representative of the one called and set upon by the Lord. Beautiful to behold, wearing the crown, the whole kingdom at her disposal. And when the king asked her to come with her crown and her royal clothes so that he could show all the people in the province her beauty and the glory that she had, which was from heaven. You know, if you've been called of the Lord, no matter how you've been gifted, you are just as beautiful in His sight. And He may very well call you one day to let the light that's in you shine before people. This is what he wanted to ask you to do. He wanted to ask you to come let our light shine before the people. He may do the same to you. You know, I recall, if you read the scriptures a little bit further down, all the way into the book of Acts, there's another person who God had called, who went and let his light shine. His name was Philip. He went to a town called Samaria and he preached the gospel. And it says the whole city was saved. It's the biggest revival at that time that ever occurred. At the hands of a deacon. Wait a minute, he wasn't a pastor, he wasn't a prophet, he was a deacon. You know what deacons do, right? They serve tables. Yeah, that's what they do. That's what they picked them for. Because the people were complaining because they wasn't getting the right distribution of food. He said, we don't have time to do that, we got to spend time in the Word of God. So, select some people among yourselves. Let them serve the tables. They became the deacons of the church. And Philip went out there and started this great revival. And in the middle of the great revival, King Xerxes said, Philip, get yourself out of there, boy, and go down this road. He went to shine his light somewhere else. So sometimes God will call you out of something you don't want to leave to shine somewhere else. Sometimes what you're doing you think is great work for the Lord and you don't want to leave it. That's the greatest thing you ever achieved in your life and you're not walking away from it no matter what anybody says. Be careful. I was listening to some prophetic teachings over the weekend. I tried to watch TV. Y'all ever tried to watch TV? I got, 600 or something channels? I sit down with my machine, all 600 and something channels, and find nothing worth watching. Nothing. Maybe SpongeBob. SpongeBob's not the only thing there was. It was his 20th year anniversary, his birthday, so they had SpongeBob constantly. So we watched a lot of SpongeBob. So I switched it on to YouTube and I watched a few. I was listening to a man talk, and don't misunderstand me. He's a prophet. God uses him in marvelous ways. But if you listen to him, the average person, I'll assume some of y'all might be average, listening to him would think, I don't have a chance of making it to heaven, I'm going to hell. Because I'm not near as holy as he is. God don't do the things with me that he does with this man. And no matter what I do, no matter how good I do, no matter how hard I try, I can never be what he is. And the way he speaks about it leads me to believe he thinks I should be what he is. Ever hear anyone speak that way? They did an opening prayer, and during the opening prayer, which lasted almost 30 minutes, he got at least 12 visions from God. I could pray for 12 years and not get a vision from God. So evidently he's holier than me. You ever get that feeling? Now I'm not telling you there's anything wrong with feeling that way, because we do feel that way sometimes. But I always show you the reverse. When God blesses you, always, always, always be sure that you never wear it as a crown. Never. I've seen some people get blessed of God, even their voice changes. Well, God touched me. But I can tell he touched you. Because you was but ugly before. Now, you can't wear as a crown God's blessing to make other people feel inferior for some strange reason. Because I don't care how good God is using you, he's using somebody else more powerfully. You can't deny that Peter was touched by God. Peter was special in God's eyes, huh? And he said, look, I'm going to build my church, and I'm going to give you the keys of heaven. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. But Philip started the revival, not Peter. And just to make sure you didn't get too bullheaded, he went and found a terrible, horrible, awful man who was killing Christians. He said, come here, I'm going to use you. And he anoints Paul with all this stuff. Of course, Paul went around telling people how great he was. Paul was the epitome of humility. He really was. Well, don't let other people's giftings intimidate you. Listen, if I had a number 3 tub, how many of y'all know what that is? Used to be a metal tub about that big around. Used to bathe in it. I could not carry a tune in that tub. And this child sings like, good gracious. Well, I'm bad. I'm just going to mope all day because you sing. And I don't. No. Now you get the point, though, huh? Does it make any sense? If it ain't making sense, say so, I'll stop and we'll go do something else. Anyway, Vashti had been touched by the king, had been given this glory above and beyond all others in this kingdom. And when the king called her, which was a normal request, was not out of the ordinary, it was not lewd, wasn't ludicrous, it was a request of the king. Let's see what happened. Verse 12. But Queen Vashti refused to come at the king's command, brought by his eunuchs. Therefore the king was furious, and his anger burned within him. Our opportunity, as many times ours is to be obedient to God. Without concern as to whether or not it's convenient for us, without concern as to whether or not we're going to be happy doing it, without concern whether it's taking us away from something we would rather be doing. It's an opportunity to come before the king and let your light shine for his goodness, not yours, which is all he was asking her to do. And he was within his rights to ask. If Jesus asked you, he's within his rights to ask you. See, you gave your life to him. Lock, stock, and barrel, all of it. So it don't belong to you anymore. He might put you on a shelf somewhere. You ever buy a tool? I got a tool that I keep in my shed. I bought it for somebody to do a job once. It's a pickaxe. The odds are pretty good I will never use that pickaxe again. But it's in my shed. And if I decide one day I want to use it, I'll go get it. It's mine. And if God sets you inside his shed for a while, just be content, because the day will come when he'll call you out of that shed. The question is, are you going to be obedient? It's so easy to shrug it off. It's not that big a deal. I mean, look, I'm the queen. I do what I want to do. I got a party going on too. The king knows that. Who does he think he is? He think he's the king. That's what he thinks he is. And guess what? He is. I listened to some other people when I was listening to those prophets too. I'm not getting into that. But I tell you what, sometimes when we get blessed with God, we get so stuffy-headed, we think we are it. When I hear a preacher make a conversation like, God says, so-and-so, look, I was thinking about doing this. What do you think about it? I just can't picture God asking my opinion about his decisions. Can you? Huh? Why would the God of the universe ask me what I think about what he wants to do? He won't. I'm getting too stuffy-headed if I think God wants my opinion about what he's going to do. He don't ask me my opinion, he just tells me. That's it. And he don't say it loudly. He just whispers it. He just whispers. That's why it's easy to shrug it off. That's probably why Vashti shrugged it off. Wasn't that difficult. Wasn't that difficult at all. She was rebellious. She was rebellious. She rebelled against her king's command. Do you have to do something horribly bad to rebel against the king's command? No, you don't. You just got to be disobedient. You know, the scripture tells us in many, many places that it's not sacrifice he desires, it's not fasting, it's not all these things, it's obedience. Desires obedience. Disobedience is as the sin of witchcraft. If you're going to be disobedient to God, you just assume you'll be a witch or what do you call it, a Wiccan, the Baal witch, a warlock. I'm not doing that. But you understand what I'm saying? She was disobedient to the king. She rebelled against his authority. That's what disobedience is. Disobedience is a rebellion against the authority of the one who gave you the request. And you notice it wasn't an order. It was a request. Or a command. God will never say, you will do this or else. He just asks you to. Of course, some of us are hard-headed. He says things more like, I will cause you to. Okay, because I'm too bullheaded and stupid to do it on my own, so you're going to force me into it. That's good enough for me. Point is, once you gave your life to him, it ain't yours, it's his. When King Vashti was made queen of this realm, she gave everything to the king. Read a little bit further. Then the king said to the wise men who understood the times, verse 13, for this was the king's manner toward all who knew the law and justice. Those closest to him being blah, 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 and the 7 princes of Persia and Media, who had access to the king's presence and who ranked highest in the kingdom. What shall we do to Queen Vashti according to the law, because she did not obey the command of the king? And one of them answered before the king and princess, Queen Vashti has not only wronged the king, but also all the princes and all the people who are in the province of King Xerxes. Don't miss this. When she rebelled against the king and refused to do what he asked, she not only rebelled against him, but she did a horrible injustice to everyone else in the realm. If a person who is known to serve the Lord openly rebels or refuses what you know is God's desire, it will wait. What it says to you is, well, it's okay to sin every now and then. For example, personally, if I went to you invited me to your house to eat a bowl of seafood, and I went to eat, and you had a can of beer sitting on the table that you drank with your seafood, I would not be offended, nor would I chastise you and tell you you're going to hell. Okay? I know there are some people who would. However, I would never, ever drink any kind of alcohol. Why? Because if I did, in the presence of those who come here or who know me, I would be telling them it's okay for them to do it. And if they're alcoholics, I would be helping cement their destruction. You follow my thinking? I remember a guy one time I read this in a book. He was riding with this fellow and he passed in front of a bowling alley. The guy said something about the bowling alley, and said, I can't go in there. So what do you mean you can't go in there? It's just a bowling alley. So I know that, but I can't go in there. For me, going in there is sin. Well, a bowling alley? All you do is throw a ball down there and knock the pin down. He said, yeah, for you it's fine. But for me, it would be sinful. Now, he didn't go into a long litany of why it would be sinful, but I understand the premise of what he was saying. There are things that I cannot do that would be sinful for me, even though they're not sinful for you. You follow me? I have news for you. The eyes of the world are upon you. They are watching you. They know that you are church-going, Bible-believing Christian, tongue talker and all. If you do something that they don't think ought to be done, they are going to assume it's okay. And you will help lead them down the wrong path. And that's what Vashti did. And all the men were saying, hey, our wives will never listen to us anymore. They were saying, oh, Queen Vashti didn't have to listen to the king. Why should we listen to you? So they had to do something. I don't know. Do you think we can influence the angels of heaven? I don't know. So, well, angels don't have a free will. They do whatever God tells them. Well, okay. How come Satan rebelled? How come a third of the angels followed him? If they don't have a free will. Or they can't do what everyone did instead. I don't know. It's not written in the scripture anyway. I read the book once. It's not in there. Point is, I don't know, can we influence angels? Can we make them think, hey, if you serving God and you're doing this, maybe it's okay. No, it's not okay. It's not okay to rebel against a command from God under any circumstances. Because what you're doing is you're not only leading yourself into deep trouble, but you're leading other people into it too without even knowing that you're doing it. Because she was a bad example. It came with a recompense. Did you know that sin brings recompense? Or in other words, the wages of sin are always payable. You will get it? Yeah, but you can be forgiven. Yes, you can. A young girl can get pregnant before she gets married. She can be forgiven. She still has to carry a baby. And she has to raise that baby for the rest of her life. So there's consequence. It may not always be condemnation, but there is consequence. And of course there was consequence for Vashti, because down here it says, let's see. Yeah, verse 19, if it pleases the king, let a royal decree go out from him, and let it be recorded in the laws of the Persians and Medes, so that it will not be altered, that Vashti shall come no more before King Xerxes, and let the king give her royal position to another who is better than she. She lost her position permanently. Permanently. For one moment of selfishness and not being obedient to God. Now, because it's getting late and I don't want to go too long. She suffered rejection. We don't know how many years she suffered this rejection in exile, because the scriptures don't tell us. But I would venture to say that she regretted her decision daily. Because she went from queen of the greatest empire in the world to nothing. The reverse of Joseph. But, on the other hand, there was Esther. Esther had a situation already. She came from she had no parents. She was a member of a tribe or a people that was not exactly the most loved in the world, raised by her uncle. She was no one of importance. There was nothing about her that would indicate she should be raised up to this kind of position. But they went out to look for a bunch of beautiful young girls to bring in to see if the king would choose one to be queen. And somehow or another, Esther got chosen. Obviously, beauty, external beauty, may attract people's attention, but internal beauty is lasting, attracts a lot more than attention. My oldest son gave an example of this. When he was in the Army station in Washington, D.C., he was all excited on one of his phone calls that he met this girl who was a model. Said she was trucked and beautiful. She had her own car. She'd pick him up in a convertible and to go on dates. He was just ecstatic. This beautiful woman was interested in him. A few weeks went on, and he'd call me every now and then. One day he called me and asked me, said, "How things go with you and your model?" Well, I said, "I had to break up with her." He said, "What, you dumped you?" No. No, he said, "I dumped her." He said, "I told him one night," he said, "You are extremely beautiful, but your beauty will someday fade away. But the ugly inside of you will always be there. And I can't live with that." I said, "Wow, where did you get that wisdom to see that? That the external beauty is nothing compared to the inner beauty." I think Esther had both, the external beauty and the inner beauty. So she was called, she was chosen, she was picked to be one of them. She was put into the, instead of reading all this, I'll just paraphrase it for you. She was put into the space with a special eunuch, and they spent 1 year, 12 months of beauty preparations. They go to beauty parlor for a year. I can only imagine the gossip that went on there. Anyway, she's put in there for a year, and for some strange reason, the eunuch that's in charge of it takes a special liking to her. Happens to God's chosen children, doesn't it? They have favor. Yeah. Anybody ever prays over you and says God's favor goes before you? Start jumping up and down with excitement, because I'm going to tell you what, you got to realize what that means. That is awesome when His favor goes before you. Well, I think Esther had God's favor. And she had the favor of the head eunuch, who gave her all that she needed and made sure she got the best of it. But Esther had character. There was something inside of her that Vashti didn't have. Obedience was an inner calmness, an inner goodness, if you will. God selects somebody. He puts certain gifts within them. And each one of you have gifts that God has placed in you. Or they may not be as obvious as some other people's gifts, but they're just as important to God. And the time will come, never know when, never know where, when He'll call upon you to exercise those gifts for His glory. And when you do, you will do it in such a way that you almost are an observer, not a doer. If you've ever experienced this, you know what I'm saying. It's almost like you were standing on the side watching as God did what He wanted to do and used you as the instrument to do it. There are gifts inside of everyone, and there's a time when He will utilize these. I call them divine appointments. And sometimes divine appointments come with tragic events ahead of them. I remember old Barney Hill over there in Natchez. Natchitoches, not Natchez. Natchitoches. There's a river in Natchitoches. And he's driving his Lincoln Continental on the side that he lives on, and blew out 2 tires. If you blow out 1 tire, you just put a spare on it. And he blew both of them. So he needed to get his car brought to a place where they could fix it. So he had to get a tow truck, and it was across the river. And he had to tow his car across the river. It cost him several $100s to get this thing fixed, because there was a woman at that tire repair shop that needed a touch from God. And he was the instrument God chose to do it. After he said to me, when he told me the story, he said, after it was all finished, I said, God, couldn't you have gotten me over there where I blew my 2 tires off? He didn't answer me. And trust me, if you go through this, He's not going to answer that question. Just know His hand is on it. His hand is on it. It's called a divine appointment. Esther was gifted by God. And there was a purpose down the road. Y'all know what the purpose is. She saved her whole nation that was still living in Persia at the time. I'm not going there. I don't have enough time for that. I want you to understand she had character. She also had a choice. All the women that were there were things that the eunuch gave them that they had to have to go in before the king. But there was an array of things that they could take with them if they chose to. Whatever they wanted to, that they thought might enhance them to the king, they would take. Jewelry, different clothes, all kinds of things. Yeah, I like to visualize this. You could make a good cartoon out of this. Big funny hats. When it came to Esther's turn, the eunuch gave her what she had to have. And he said, "And what else would you like?" And she made a choice. Nothing. She didn't choose anything else to enhance her. She didn't choose anything of the world to make her look better in the eyes of the king. Maybe she understood in her heart the same thing we need to understand, that in the eyes of the king, he wants us the way we are. We don't have to do something to gain his favor. We think we do. We think we need to do certain things to gain his favor. Because obviously, we don't have God's favor over here. Look how small our church is. Brother Pacquiao, he's got God's favor. Look how big his church is. No. Like Brother Kim tells me all the time when talking. He said, "I could never pastor your church." I said, "You're right. You couldn't." Of course, by the same token, I couldn't pastor yours. Because I'm not called to that, and you're not called to this. Sometimes you ought to be just happy with what you got and where you are. Or you could end up like Vashti. Nothing. Anyway, she made a choice not to grab anything. Just go to where she was, and she went before the king, and guess what? King liked her. King chose her. She got a crown on her head for being humble and just being who she was. Don't try to be who you think God wants you to be, like somebody else. No, He wants you to be you. I always tell people, how'd you like to know what God's perfect will for your life is? Would you like to know that? Well, I'd love to have something written down. This is my perfect will for your life. Well, Lord, answer the question for you now. Since you'll always know what God's perfect will for your life is, His perfect will is for you to live your life the way He created you, with the gifting He created you with. Live it for Him. That's it. Whether He made you a ditch digger or an executive of a corporation making $15 million a year, whichever one you are, dig your ditches unto God. Run your corporation unto God. And you are working in His perfect will. So He will direct your path. And He will lead you and move you where He wants you. All you have to do is, when you hear that whispering voice, is obey it. I was watching one of those characters on TV I was talking about earlier, and I heard the guy comment about Vashti and Esther, and I heard a whisper. No, there's nothing there. There's a lot there. This is just the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot more than I'm sharing with you this morning because we don't have time. So, Esther got the crown. She was the new queen. She was the new queen. She was in charge. She was top dog. She never told the king what her nationality was. Never told the king anything. He didn't care. You notice Jesus didn't ask you when He accepted you and took you in, what's your background? All right, tell me about your family. Yeah. Well, go straighten up your life. Didn't come to me. Get if you wait and get your life straight before you come to Jesus, forget it. Ain't gonna happen. You gotta come to the King the way you are. The King will clean you up. The King will put royal clothes on you. The King will put the crown on you. Not you. You can't do it. So, down the road, without going into it any deeper, there came a day when there was an enemy of God's people there. Well, know him, Haman. And he decided he would get rid of pesky Jews. You know, somebody ought to stop and think sometime, why is it that so many nations on the earth hated the Jews so much and wanted them destroyed? I mean, I'm reading a book right now on the Plantagenets. Y'all all know the Plantagenets already. I had no idea until I started reading the book. That's the kings that created what is now England. That started in the 1000s, 1100s, 1200s, 1300s. Anyway, they threw the Jews out of England and confiscated all their money because the Jews are still the richest people. Wherever they go, they become the richest people there. You know that? I don't care where they go. They just gravitate to money. But way back then, they were throwing Jews out. They had no... If there's something going on here when that many people hate this race of people, there's something. God's chosen people. And if you really search deep inside of it, to find out why these people hate them so much, they're jealous. God chose you and not us. Ishmael was our ancestor. God didn't choose Ishmael, he chose Isaac instead. Or whatever, Jacob. Isaac. Anyway, you get my point. After that many centuries, you would think. Anyway, Haman wanted to get rid of them. You know what I like about Haman? If you really like to read the scriptures, the Old Testament, and I do, it says Haman was a Nagakite. Y'all know what a Nagakite is? Anybody have a clue what a Nagakite is? Yeah, I read that several times. I kept saying, what? A Nagakite. Remember Saul? King Saul? Samuel tells him, go out and destroy the Amalekites. Don't leave anything alive. Kill all the people, the children, the animals, burn the crops, burn the city. Don't bring anything back alive. Saul comes back from his campaign. Samuel shows up, and Saul says, I have done what the Lord requested. And Samuel says, what's this bleating of sheep and this lowing of oxen that I hear? Oh, well, the men wanted to bring the best of their herds to sacrifice to the Lord. God didn't tell you to bring them back to sacrifice. Well, look, I got King Agag. The king of the Amalekites. Agag, Agagite. Haman was a descendant of Agag. Saul didn't destroy that nation like he was supposed to. So the reciprocal, all those years later, he's still fighting because of that disobedience. You get that? That wouldn't be in the scriptures unless there was a real point to be made there. Disobedience of Saul brought condemnation to the people 1,000 years later. Not 1,000, but close to it. Anyway, and when Mordecai said, hey, we got to do something about this, because one thing about Persia, when they wrote a law, and the king sealed it, that was it. You could not undo the law, ever. So he told Esther to go into the king. And of course, if you read the book, it tells you that if you went to the king unrequested, without him calling for you, you could be killed. The only thing that could save your life if you walked into the king's chamber without his request is if he handed a scepter out to you. Otherwise, you'd be killed on the spot. And she knew that. And she told that. And that's when he said those immoral words. how do you know that you're not here for such a time as this? You don't know what that gifting is inside of you and for what time God's going to use it. So they prayed and fasted for 3 days. She said, okay, I'm going in. If I die, I die. And of course, he ran his subtitle to her. And we know the end of the story. The Jews wound up making a lot of money and killing all the people that hated them because of Esther and her attitude and her obedience, her courage, called it all the things she had. It had not happened if Vashti had not been disobedient. I'll bet you when you read Esther, before you read Esther, all of this wasn't in there. The scriptures are alive, and they are lessons for us constantly. Constantly. We could probably preach on these two people for a month and have a different sermon each time based on what happened with these people. Because God is teaching us in His Word. All these things. Ta-da! And He blessed, I don't know, how many of y'all actually watched, 4 or 5 minutes of TV during this horrible storm?
We did.
I mean, 24 hours a day, that's all that was on the stupid thing. Oh, thunderstorms, 75 inches of rain are going to fall. It's going to flood everything. It's horrible. God, if you can go back and look at those, if you could get a copy of those things and look at it, I want you to look at Homa. And I want you to look at all of the weather that's passing and watch what it does to Homa. It goes all around it. Is this the first time it happened? No. Y'all heard of Katrina? Go back and find the plotting of Katrina's course. Katrina came into the Gulf and did not turn. It made one straight line, and if you put a ruler on it, that straight line was home. Right up Terrebonne Parish going up. That was exactly the direction that storm was coming. Category 5 hurricane. Better get out. Ain't nobody gonna survive. Everybody gonna be dead. Y'all better get out of here. It got almost to the coastline and it turned due north, almost northeast, and then turned north-northwest and went in and Gulfport, Mississippi. It made a complete loop around us. Tell me God ain't watching out for His parish. All around us.
And boys, bad band, you can see it.
See all those bands going here, going there, home, nothing.
Or it would just disperse as it came up to us, just kind of evaporating it.
Yeah. We blessed. We really are blessed. Hallelujah. I thank y'all, most especially. Thank you guys. That was awesome. We were good.
Y'all come back.
Do what? Yeah, we are blessed to have y'all because we I have to tell her there when she leaves, the whole church comes apart. Nobody showed up Wednesday night. But there was about 4 of us that were finally here about 8 o'clock. Look how many people we got here today.
Yeah, we looked outside and nobody was here, so we didn't come.
Yeah. Well, that's what Ron and them did. They drove up, they didn't see any cars, and they left. They came back at 8 o'clock. We said, they ain't talking. We actually had a visitor that night. Anyway, hallelujah. Anyone need prayer for anything? Anyone here don't know the Lord? If you don't know the King, now's a good time to meet Him. I'm going to tell you what, you don't want to leave this world without Him. But I think I'm pretty well sure that everybody in here has a relationship with the Lord already. And, but if you have a need of prayer for anything, we'll be glad to pray with you. If the restaurants are open today, and I'm sure they are, you get a good seat today. Of course, I don't know. This might happen in all other churches too. They might not be. They might all be closing early today.
I saw that the diocese for Catholic Church that said no mass today.
No mass today?
They like you guys to do, no classes.
I don't know of any time in my life that I've known a Catholic church to cancel their mass.
Was it the mass? I saw something on Facebook, they were closing something.
Typical versus typical, but
Let's keep thinking I forgot something. Make sure I didn't forget something in the way of an announcement. Because I'll do that. No. I do have confirmation that Michelle Beadle will be with us. Yeah, in October. So she is coming back. She usually comes a lot earlier than this, but she'll be
Who's that?
back.
I'm sorry.
Huh?
Who's that? I'm sorry.
Who?
Who will be here?
Michelle Beadle, the Messianic Jew. One that did the Passover meal with us and all.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. And she gives us a view of Jesus in the Old Testament through
Yeah.
Jewish eyes.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good teaching. She's very good. Very thorough. She don't give woo-woo, but she's very thorough in her teaching. Very good. Hallelujah, then. Let's all get together and have some fun.